At Opening Night Live, we got to see the new DLC for Dying Light 2, and I'm really pleased to say that today we are joined by Timon, who's going to tell us way more about Bloody Ties. Timon, how are you doing?
Good, it's amazing to be able to share the trailer and all of the bits about the DLC finally to the audience, to our community.
And this DLC is called Bloody Ties.
Yes.
So just give us an idea, what kind of DLC? Is it story DLC? Is it kind of like arena DLC? What have we got?
I would say this is a mix of both. So there is a story definitely, and I think it will be quite surprising for our players because it takes Aiden outside of the city of Villador into this extraordinary new location, and there is like a quite chunky story we want Aiden to follow. There are also arenas, there are also combat sequences, there are also shows that you participate in, trying to reach the tournament, the top of the ranks at the Carnage Hall, the place where this whole DLC takes place.
There's quite a lot of stuff to kind of break down there, so I think that probably the best place to start is this new location, the Opera. We've seen like some footage, but tell us more about what is the place, what's the history of this place, and what does it serve now?
Okay, so we have come up with quite interesting backstory to this place. Right now it's called Carnage Hall, but it wasn't called like that, of course, before the apocalypse. So previously it was Royal Stage Hall, and it was a place of opera, of theater shows, a place where the high society was seeing all of the exquisite shows. Right now the shows are still exquisite, but they are really wicked and twisted and quite bloody, as the name suggests. But the thing is that this is the place where the people in Villador post-apocalypse can have their entertainment. So it's not only about fights, there are also additional shows, there are entertainers showing their craft, and if you want you can even look at the monsters, the infected, from the safety because they are closed, hidden in cages.
I think the big question I've got now then is why on earth does Aiden want to be here? What's sort of pulled him to this place?
Well, Aiden gets involved into sort of a family story, and he's being asked for some help to a character we're not revealing right now. And he also is drawn by the fame and the prestige and the rewards he can get at Carnage Hall, because the arena, the Carnage Hall, the tournament, allows you to earn a lot of new rewards, like new weapons, new gear pieces, new outfits, and also some additional cool new toys.
It's kind of like the fame, the fortune, but almost like the gold at the end of the tournament, right?
Yes, and that's actually your goal. To solve the story, you need to reach the top tier, the top level, the #1 position, and beat the reigning champion, Skullface.
Right, okay. So actually, you've said Skullface. We've seen what he looks like. He's looking a pretty menacing dude.
Yes.
Can you tell us a bit more about him, kind of like what he's up to?
Maybe not yet. I think we want to keep the cards close to our hearts for now, but we are revealing actually 2 new characters. One is Skullface, the champion, and as you said, he's quite menacing, and he's using a very interesting weapon, a very interesting device that gives him this ultimate power, which of course players can get if they beat Skullface. And there's also another character that we are revealing. Her name is Astrid, and she's like a former media personality that now runs the show. So she's not only organizing the whole tournament at Carnage Hall, but also serves as a commentator on the shows themselves, because these are not just very simple arenas where you go out and kill a lot of enemies. Those are spectacles that resemble modern day fables. They use myths or stories known from the history of humankind, but they twist them and bend them into those grandiose, violent spectacles.
So, explain a bit more about that, because that sounds super interesting.
I know,
how do these things work?
Yeah, so I know that the concept might be quite hard to grasp. So to give you an example, one of the spectacles that we are actually showing glimpses of in the trailer is called Prince of Thieves. And you are playing the story of Robin Hood, and your goal is to rob the sheriff's castle. So first you need to gather materials to create like an exploding device, a bomb. Then you need to blow up the doors to the castle. Then you need to enter the yard of the castle and find gold and pack it into this cart that then you have to push outside of the castle. So there are multi-objectives to the spectacles. They are constantly narrated by Astrid. They have their own musical themes, they have their own scenography. So they're really something quite unique, something quite original.
Mm-hmm. So it's almost kind of like living theatre, but
yes,
the people that are living within the theatre are almost certainly going to die, right?
Yes, so your job is to survive those theatres. characters.
And is there anything else that kind of Astrid can do with us? Has she got another purpose in the game?
You meet her also outside of the spectacles. You get to interact with her, you get to help her with some things, with some backstories of the main thing. I can suggest this to the players. I think they should follow the side story that she gives you, because at the end of this side story, not only you will uncover one part of the secret of the whole DLC and the Carnage Hall and Skullface, but you will also get a fan favorite item from the first game.
So in Bloody Ties, one of the things I love about the base game is there's a lot of morally grey characters that ask you to do some pretty awful things, and you have to make very, very complicated decisions. Is that like interesting decision making back for Bloody Ties?
Definitely, this was one of the goals for the expansion, that we wanted to focus on the choices and make them more interesting and maybe even more organic than in the base game. So actually there are a few moments where we ask players to make a choice, not by choosing like a dialogue line, but actually by role-playing the character in a specific way, which impacts how the story progresses. So yes, this DLC offers branching paths and has more than one ending, let me say it like this.
Interesting. Okay. One of the things that you mentioned before was the idea of kind of like Skullface has this kind of interesting kind of item. Now, from what I understand, is this another tool akin to like the grappling hook and the glider? Is it another piece of Aiden's equipment?
Yes, you can, if you get it, if you earn it, it becomes a new piece of Aiden's equipment. It's focused on combat, because definitely this is a weapon. This is mostly a weapon, but you can mod it, you can apply some effects to it. I don't want to spoil too much, sorry, because we still have like a few weeks to uncover the whole thing, but I hope players will get really excited about it.
And obviously this seems to be quite a combat-focused DLC, and we've spoken about the spectacle battles, but is there kind of like a gradient? You know, are there interesting smaller battles that we'll be fighting as well?
So spectacles aren't the only activities, aren't the only shows that happen at the Carnage Hall. Some of the others are focused more on combat, some of the others are focused more on parkour. And one thing that also makes a combat from our previous games is the freak fights. The freaks are making a combat, the freaks from the following. Of course, again, twisted and blended into this completely new thing, very exquisite, very like high society style as the whole Carnage Hall.
And have you, in the time between like the base game and this, are there any kind of interesting tweaks that you've done to combat? Any interesting new ideas for combat?
Well, a lot. We are supporting the game since it has been released. Actually, right now we are on big patch update number 5, so we are constantly trying to listen to our community and bring new things to the game. It's a lot, it's a ton, so it's very hard to actually pinpoint any one of those, but that's what we try to do. We have promised our players that we will be supporting the game for 5 years. Like, it's still the beginning of this road, but I think our community can agree to this, that we are listening to the requests very closely and try to deliver on everything they ask us for.
I think one of the things that we expect from Dying Light is obviously this kind of big open world that has a mixture of kind of like activities and main quests and side quests. Obviously this takes us outside of Villador to this more isolated. Can we still expect sort of like side quests and main quests, or have you got a different approach?
Of course, definitely. So this really is like a story DLC with additional missions, micro quests, side quests. There's actually plenty to do. Maybe the map isn't, of course, it's not as big as the map of the original game, but it's not just the interior of the Carnage Hall. There's also a very nice surrounding. The map might be small, but it's actually quite packed, and there are a lot of secrets, a lot of like passageways and nooks and crannies that you can look behind to find some interesting stuff.
So aside from just this main expansion, we've already had a look at Chapter 2, which you announced a little while ago. I was just wondering, could you give us a little bit more interesting kind of tidbits on that?
So it's getting live quite soon. It's just days that divide us till the date. So it's about a new character that we introduce, a huntress, which is keen on fighting the infected using ranged weapons. And as with all of our chapters, we not only bring in a new character, but also new enemies and new encounters. And with this one, I think the encounters and the enemies are actually very, very interesting. So the main enemy, new enemy that you will find in this chapter is called the Hag. So she is like a mutated version of our Banshee with some cool additional abilities. we have also twisted the mechanics and the logic and the look of one of our enemies that I don't think players expect that we could do something with them, but we did. So like, I hope we will surprise them in just a few days.
And then in terms of kind of like now just looking to the future, obviously we know that you want to support the game for a long time. Kind of what can players expect kind of through the rest of the year, maybe even into the next year?
So of course we will be continuing the chapters. So those are our free updates with new characters, new enemies, new weapons, new bounties, new tasks to complete. Again, I'm not really able to reveal all of our plans, but this is something that the fans of the original game will be very keen on. Of course, there is another DLC on the horizon, but for right now we are focusing on Bloody Ties. Also, the community can expect a lot more community updates. As I said, we are browsing all of the Twitter feeds, Reddit forums, Steam reviews, trying to find what the community requests.
Well, Timon, it's been great to speak to you. I'm really excited to check out Bloody Ties.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thanks.